Hey guys, this is EJ Holland with the Wolverine.com, and I was in Atlanta over the weekend. I had a chance to see multiple Michigan targets as well as a commit. Let's dive right into it and start off with the guy y'all are wondering about, consensus 4-star defensive lineman Kayden McDonald out of Suwanee North Gwinnett, just north of Atlanta. Really like Kayden's game. Michigan does as well, so I said consensus 4-star. He's actually a 3-star on On3. Michigan wholeheartedly disagrees with that. He is the number one priority on the defensive line board. He was actually the only official visitor that Michigan hosted over the first 2 weeks of the season. They really wanted to personalize this official visit, and I think they did an excellent job. Before we talk about the OV, I had a chance to catch up with Kayden on Thursday before he flew out to Ann Arbor after his practice. Really good conversation with him. Biggest takeaway going into the visit was Michigan still had some work to do as far as overcoming distance, getting Kayden's mother to buy into leaving the South and going up to Ann Arbor. Obviously can be a culture shock for some, completely different. You're far away from home, but it's obviously worked out well for others. Michigan recruits at a high level across the country every cycle. So getting up there and really moving the needle with his mom, moving the needle with him, making him feel comfortable was the big goal for Michigan this weekend. And I think they accomplished that. On Kayden's side, of course he loved being at the big house for a night game, even if it was against a weaker opponent in Hawaii. He still loved the atmosphere, loved seeing Michigan's defense dominate against a poor Hawaii team. He enjoyed his conversations with Jesse Minter, Mike Elston. Both have done a great job in this recruitment, all that good stuff. But I think the biggest part about this visit, again, was making Kayden feel comfortable. So like I said, he felt comfortable with the coaching staff, felt comfortable with the players. More importantly, away from the field, he felt comfortable. Michigan did a great job of getting him really immersed in the culture of Ann Arbor, what it's like not only as a football player, but also a student and just a regular dude living in A2, right? So he had a chance to try some Detroit-style pizza, had a Reuben at Maize and Blue Deli, hung around the city with the players. So I thought that part went really well for him. And then on the flip side of the coin, his mother had a chance to go to the parents' tailgate. She spent extended time with Zach Zinter's family. His parents, Paul and Tiffany, great people. I've met them on multiple occasions, great ambassadors for the program. So I thought that was a positive for Kayden's mom. They also had a chance to spend some time with the family of DJ Turner, who actually played at the same high school as Kayden as an underclassman, so a fellow Georgia native that went up to Michigan. So I thought that was important as well. So overall, Michigan did a great job. And then the other big takeaway I had, aside from just checking kind of that distance box or doing, whatever they could to overcome distance, was the fact that Jim Harbaugh was so personally involved. So obviously it's a game week. Harbaugh's busy planning for Hawaii, but he made time to spend a lot of individual time with Kayden McDonald. And they had a chance to watch NFL games on Sunday. They had an individual meeting. They played some Madden. I thought that went really well. Kayden's interview, which you can find on the Wolverine, $1 for 1 year, talked a lot about what Jim Harbaugh did on this visit. I think Jim Harbaugh really, really made a big impression, and that's awesome because Harbaugh is the X factor in a lot of recruitments. Jesse Minter and Mike Elston, again, have already done a tremendous job here. But I think getting Harbaugh involved in a time where Michigan needs to find a way to close with Kayden was great. So definitely positive vibes coming out of the visit. But there's still a long way to go in this recruitment. He's set to make his decision on Halloween and wants to make other visits. So he has an official visit set to Ohio State this coming weekend, looking to get back to Florida for an unofficial visit, looking to get to Clemson for an official visit, looking to get to Oklahoma for an official visit. So a lot of moving parts in this recruitment. Michigan built up a lot of momentum in June when they hosted him for an unofficial visit. Again, the official visit was great, but things have changed there. Florida's doing a great job of recruiting him. They have a lot to offer from an NIL standpoint. Clemson hosted him at the end of July and made a huge impression on that visit. And then again, he's, still interested in Ohio State. They get their shot this weekend. And Oklahoma has quietly been a long-time contender in this recruitment as well. So Michigan did everything it could. We'll see where the chips kind of fall. Let's go ahead and stick with the defensive side of the ball and talk about Aaron Gates very quickly. 4-star defensive back out of Sharpsburg Trinity Christian. Aaron's a guy that we've talked about as a potential flip candidate for several months. He's committed to Florida, but he visited Michigan for the spring game, came back to Ann Arbor for an official visit for the summer, and for the longest, it just seemed like it was a matter of when, not if, he was going to flip. But Florida has done a nice job of negating things. They had him on campus for an unofficial visit at the end of July. Remember, there were rumors that Gates was coming in for the barbecue at the Big House, instead went to Florida, and then he was back at Florida this weekend. So I was supposed to meet with Gates. He actually suffered an injury. Still some question marks on that. I won't go too much into it right now. And then he had to hop on a plane and head to Florida, so I didn't get a chance to catch up with him. But everything I heard from my time in Atlanta was that it seems more likely now that Gates will stick with Florida than at any point in the last several months. So Michigan's still involved here. This is a kid that Steve Clinkscale, Michigan's co-defensive coordinator, cornerbacks coach, has been recruiting for several years, I believe since he was like a freshman. So he's had a long-standing relationship there. It'll be interesting to see how things kind of progress. Florida is one of those teams that could end up winning some games they're not supposed to, or they could completely fall flat. You've seen it through the first couple weeks of the season, so maybe that has a factor. As of right now, I think optimism around Ann Arbor for Gates is a little on the downside. Let's transition to two big offensive line targets, including the number one overall priority on Michigan's interior offensive line board, DJ Chester out of Eagles Landing Christian. On 300 prospect, actually ranked as the number 118 overall prospect nationally per On3. Michigan absolutely loves Chester. So I actually went out to see Chester in the spring, and I did not get the sense that Michigan was a factor at all here. Really talked about wanting to stay and play down south, and talked a lot about SEC schools. And so I didn't really put too much stock into Chester early, but then slowly Sharon Moore started to do a great job of recruiting him. And actually, when I went out to see him in the spring, Moore had just offered like about a week ago. So the more he got a chance to recruit Chester, obviously the more interest Chester showed in Michigan, came up for an unofficial visit in the summer, and is now set to make an official visit on October 29th for the Michigan State game. I am buying that Michigan is a true contender in this recruitment. I still think distance is a factor, much like with Kayden McDonald, but even more so in this recruitment. LSU has been considered the leader here. Auburn and Florida State are very, very high on his list as well. Ole Miss hanging around and is getting an OV in October. Michigan quietly a dark horse here. I think Chester really loves his relationship with Moore, loves the job Moore did last year with the offensive line, winning the Joe Moore Award. Should be an easy sell for offensive linemen, right? Moore played the position, had the best group in the country last cycle. Michigan's offensive line is renowned. They love being bullies in the trenches, in the run game. This should be a full-on sell to G.J. Chester, and I know Moore is doing as good of a job as possible, but tough to overcome distance, and in this age, tough to overcome NIL. And you look at some of the contenders, LSU, Auburn, Florida State, that's tricky territory. But I think Michigan can move the needle. I think the official visit will tell us a lot more about where Michigan truly stands in this recruitment. Right now, I want to say that group, Auburn, Florida State, LSU, probably ahead of Michigan right now, with Ole Miss kind of on the back end. But overall, again, this one has a long way to go too. The official visit in late October, and Chester is not making a decision until January. So we have many, many months to go. Let's go ahead and go over to another interior offensive line target. I had a chance to stop by and see Nathan Phobia, fellow Peach State native. Phobia is such a anomaly, just an interesting prospect. And from a ranking standpoint, let me pull up his page real quick. So from a ranking standpoint, he is ranked as a top 100 prospect on On3, and then he is ranked as an extremely low 3-star on ESPN, and then kind of a middle of the pack 3-star on Rivals, and then a middle of the pack 3-star on 24/7. So just a guy that's just all over the place from a rankings perspective. Just really odd. Usually those are a lot closer, so I think he's kind of just an outlier in terms of rankings this year. But anyway, Michigan really likes him. They would definitely take his commitment. Right now, Michigan has a really high floor prospect in Amir Herring. Phobia is definitely a high ceiling prospect. So he's a guy that's played on both sides of the ball. Some schools actually liked him as a defensive lineman early on, but now trending more towards an offensive lineman. More offered him this offseason and really fell in love with his game. Again, really high upside kid, super athletic, great feet, good length for only being 6'4". There's a lot to like about Phobia. He just has some work to do from a technical standpoint. Still needs to add some strength, power to his game, but again, a lot to like about Phobia. I think you pair him with Herring and still go all in on DJ Chester, and that's a good little interior group, right? So right now, I would say Michigan leads in this recruitment. He is planning to come in for an official visit on September 24th. He actually has fall break all of that week after the Maryland game. So plans to stay at Michigan for several more days. Michigan's still working out the logistics of that, especially with, 5-star athlete Nicholas Harbaugh coming in for an OV, and they're going to have a lot of attention on him. But Phobia currently planning to make that OV on September 24th. I think Michigan can lock him up on that OV, to be honest. Miami probably second right now, and I will never discount Miami in a recruitment with the way things are going with NIL this cycle. But I really do think Phobia values what Michigan can offer on and off the field. He's also a family friend of David Ojabo, who has been recruiting him to Michigan. Let's end this podcast, YouTube video, wherever you're listening / watching, with Benjamin Hall, Michigan's much-discussed 3-star running back commit out of Kennesaw North Cobb, one of the premier programs in the entire state of Georgia. North Cobb is a school that I've visited on multiple occasions dating back to my time at Texas. They run a great program up there. Great coaching, great people. Always love going up to North Cobb. So obviously was excited when Michigan was able to land Benjamin Hall this cycle. They were actually in the mix for Joshua Joseph's last cycle, so they've been trying to get a kid out of there. They've got one in Benjamin Hall, but much debate around Hall, including from me. So Michigan took his commitment very early on in the process when they were actually still in the mix for some other highly touted guys like Mark Fletcher, Jaden Lemar. I know those are older names, but if you can think back to the spring, those were the guys that we were talking about as legit possibilities for Michigan, and then they took Hall. Gave them 2 backs in the class with Cole Cabana. So, I think Mike Hart kind of settled there early in the process. Didn't necessarily agree with it. Hall is a smaller bowling ball type, 5'9.5", 227 pounds. I mean, he's well built. He's super thick in his lower half, super thick in his upper half as well. So he's short, but he's a strong kid. I likened his game a bit to former NFL running back Michael Turner, but still has a long way to go to fill out that comparison. Hall's another one with the rankings where, I think he's a 3-star across the board except for Rivals, which has him as a 4-star. But the reason I questioned Hall early on, or taking Hall early on, was, he wasn't super productive last year, and he did split carries with some other highly touted prospects. Only had about 550 yards as a junior, but more so on tape, he didn't really show a ton of explosion, didn't really show the ability to be a battering ram. I mean, he did do well when running between the tackles, and he did run some guys over, but not at a consistent rate. Foot speed seemed to be a little on the slower side. So I didn't really see it with Hall. Honestly, I had him graded as a mid 3-star prospect. I feel terrible saying that because Benjamin Hall is such a great kid. I mean, I've always enjoyed my conversations with him. By all accounts, a great kid off the field as well. Was voted a team captain in the spring, high academic kid. So, but just wasn't really a big fan of his game from a Michigan standpoint. And obviously, I cover Michigan, so I'm bringing you guys evals from a Michigan standpoint. Didn't see him as a Michigan-level running back. But, Mike Hart is obviously smarter than I am, so he took Hall early, really liked the profile, and you're kind of seeing the type of backs that Mike Hart really likes. So kind of backs that resemble himself a little bit. Mike Hart wasn't the most highly touted recruit, was a little on the short side, but very powerful runner that broke records at the University of Michigan. I liked CJ Stokes last cycle more than I liked Benjamin Hall this cycle, but they kind of have similar body types, similar running styles. I think CJ's faster and more explosive than Hall is, but that type of back fits what Mike Hart is looking for. So I say all of that to finally get to my point is on Friday night, Hall had a mere 1 carry for -2 yards. Not the stat line you want to see. So what happened? Well, like I said, North Cobb is one of the premier programs in the state of Georgia. They have 2 other offensive weapons with Power 5 offers. So one had missed all of last year with injury. He took over as the starting back, and the other is more of a jack of all trades type that kind of saw secondary carries as a change of pace back. So Hall just got demoted to third on the pecking order in terms of carries. Did line up a little bit in the slot, played some special teams, but for the most part just wasn't really involved there. And it wasn't because of injury or character issues or anything of that nature. I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what's been going on with Hall. He had a key fumble in a loss to Buford the week prior, but apparently just hasn't performed as well as the other backs on the roster. And again, the other backs have Power 5 offers, so it's not like, he's gotten replaced by some scrubs or something, but I don't know. I think he has to prove himself more as a senior. I think he has to prove he can get his job back. I think he has to prove that he can be productive in a league as strong as the one that North Cobb plays in, for me to really buy into the fact that he's a Michigan level running back. Again, great kid. I think he's a great program fit, but I need to see more out of him. And I know the North Cobb coaching staff wants to see more out of him as well. From everything I was able to gather, apparently Hall has been more hesitant, hasn't been hitting the hole as hard, hasn't been running over people. Again, that foot speed that's on the slower end has been a factor and just really hasn't been all that explosive. Not really what they were expecting out of Hall as a senior. He, again, is really well built, man. I mean, for being 5'9.5", I mean, he's put together like a tank. And maybe Mike Hart, has a track record of developing guys, obviously, again, a great player at the position. Maybe he can get the most out of him. You never know. It looks like CJ Stokes has progressed from his ranking as a recruit, but it was uncharted waters for me. I've been doing this a decade. I've never covered a recruit that did not start for his high school team, especially at a premier position like running back. It was weird. I mean, I've covered recruits that didn't start for their high school teams that were underclassmen and things of that nature, but never a senior committed to the school that I covered. So that was just really, really interesting to see. I'm not really sure how to take it. I feel like it's been like 3 or 4 days and I'm still trying to process it. It's definitely a weird situation. So we'll see how it kind of plays out. On the good news, Cole Cabana is having a tremendous senior year, putting up literally video game numbers. So, Michigan has that going for it. And like I said, I think CJ Stokes is already playing above what he was ranked by the services as well. So if someone can get something out of Hall, it's definitely Mike Hart, but I think there's definitely going to be some work to do with Hall once he arrives in Ann Arbor. All right, guys, that's it. Head over to thewolverine.com right now. Subscribe $1 1 year. We'll see you guys for our live show. Make sure to join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. I will be chatting with you guys for an entire hour. So make sure to join us over here on our YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed, just click the subscribe button. You'll get an alert for the live show. Appreciate you guys. Later.